Found out she was pregnant 3 months later. My dad went in for knee replacement surgery and died.
Oh my God.
Very unexpectedly at 46 years old. Fast forward to August, my beautiful daughter was born. So I'm 22 with a newborn and 2 stepkids. And then we immediately found out her mother had stage 4 cancer. Going through all that, like there's nothing I can't overcome now. I think that's why a lot of people are so unhappy is they look at this highlight reel that people put on social media and it's like, it's just that.
Yeah.
They're not even living that life. So you're comparing yourself to something that's not real. All this toxic masculinity shit is so stupid.
Yeah.
In the absence of masculinity, you have chaos. When you have nothing but weak men, you have a collapsed society.
Who do you think you are becoming?
I think I'm becoming the man I was supposed to be.
What is up, everybody? This is Joe Adams, and welcome to the Relentless Pursuit Podcast. What we do on this podcast is bring in guests from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life to share their journey and everything along the way that led them to where they're at today. Real conversations, raw emotion, and the kind of human connection that can't be faked. We're here to make an impact, and that is what we do. So if that is for you, like, subscribe, all those wonderful things. And if that is not for you, I don't know what your problem is, but it's time to jump on board today. Thank you. But without further ado, I would love to introduce today's guest, Mr. Josh Biggs.
What's up, everybody?
What is up, dude? It's good to have you here, my man.
Thank you for having me, brother. It's a real honor.
Yes, sir. So taking it back a little bit, Josh and I met about 2017.
I think so, yeah. 17.
Yeah,
17.
at a gym in Hermitage. You just came there every once in a while, I think.
Yeah. I think I was just going around the area trying to find some locations to sell our meal prep. There's a whole wholesale account.
You were doing that at the time.
Yeah, and I really liked the gym.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it was
I'd come work out.
a sweet spot for sure.
It was.
Yeah, man. And we met then. I think we, had small conversation here and there. I always thought you were a nice guy.
Yeah.
And I followed you. I lost contact when my Instagram was deleted. Still don't know why. It is what it is. That was a different season of my life anyways. And then, I saw your, got a spot open up here in Nashville. Yep. And I reached out. I was like, dude, that'd be great to reconnect with this guy. You're the owner of the Fuel Fortress franchise. Pretty killer looking gym. I started seeing videos of the first one and I was like, holy shit, that is badass. These guys are crushing it. Yeah. So it's good to see you again, man. It's good to have you here and I'm ready to dive into your story. So Josh, what does life look like for you today? What do you got going on? Just briefly cover that before we take it back.
So today, this past weekend, we just opened our Nashville location. That's our 5th location. Super proud of it. They've done a great job. The owners, Matt, Sam, Taryn, and Leah, they great people. We actually met them training at Nashville MMA together.
Okay.
So it's kind of a really cool circle of life story on that space. We all of us used to train at Nashville MMA. That's where we made our relationships. Matt came to me, saw what we were doing with Fuel Fortress. Taryn had always wanted a gym. They partnered with Sam and Leah, and we ended up taking over the space that we actually used to train at in Nashville MMA.
Nice.
So it's the same space. So it kind of has additional, memory and nostalgic value to us. And then to see it as our brand now is really cool. So that's our 5th location. We're opening our 6th location in Elizabethtown, Kentucky. It's under construction right now. And currently we are working with 7 other locations to hopefully drop in Q2.
Dude, that's huge. Some big moves.
Yeah. We're rolling.
But it took a lot to get there.
Oh, man.
Took a lot to get there.
Yeah.
So let's take it back. Let's take it back to before Fuel Fortress existed. Yeah. Josh, where are you from? Where do you hail from? Take us to the beginning a little bit. Touch on childhood, some experiences there, some things that kind of molded you into who you are today.
So going all the way back, I grew up really quick. So when I was 19, I started dating my daughter's mother.
Okay.
And she was significantly older than me, but we dated for a few years. So at that time, I was 19, raising an 11-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Okay.
Stepkids.
Where are you from, by the way?
Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Okay.
Yeah. So born and raised, still live there.
And met her there?
Yeah. Met her there in the gym.
Okay.
So the gym's always been a pretty big part of my life.
Yeah.
And so raising two step kids, we were together for about 3 years, and then got pregnant with my daughter. And so a little bit of a shock on that. But I was ready. You know,
okay, you were. You didn't feel like the need to like prove something. You just felt ready to be a father and stuff.
As weird as it sounds, I knew I was always destined to be a dad.
Yeah.
And to me, I didn't need to be 30 to start having a family. So I was really happy about it. It was a girl, which I was also really happy about.
Yeah.
You know, most men want a boy, but dude, there's nothing like a daddy's girl.
Bro.
You know that.
Dude, it's the man, I don't know, just like yesterday I told you, we were at the park all day, man. It just it does something to you, bro, that you can't explain.
It tears your insides up.
Yeah.
As a
in the best way
man.
possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
She was pregnant, and then basically from there it was a rough couple years. So God was kind of setting the stage for me, building my character is what I like to think. So found out she was pregnant. About 3 months later, my dad went in for knee replacement surgery and died.
Oh my God.
Very unexpectedly at 46 years old. So
how from a knee replacement surgery? I mean, I'm probably going to need those, you know, because of my accident,
too, honestly,
right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh shit.
So he had Parkinson's, and he had a really, really aggressive form of Parkinson's. So he went from perfectly fine to in a wheelchair in a year. So from what I've been told, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but they were told not to put him on his back, flat on his back, for surgery because of the Parkinson's. Something to do with that. Well, they did, and then that night he aspirated in his lungs and passed away. Yeah.
Man, I'm really sorry to hear that.
Yeah. That was one of the worst things that's happened in my life. I was really close to my dad. I had a great relationship with him. You know, that time in your life, 20, 22, you're really busy. And so I always look back and, you know, wish I would have put priorities a little differently, you know, because you don't miss some people until they're gone.
Oh, 100%.
You know, and I had a great childhood. He was a fantastic father, great role model, you know. So anyway, he passed away.
If you don't mind me asking, man, and you don't have to answer this, if you could say something to him now, what would you say?
Man, there's many times I'd love to call him and just tell him about what's going on in life and talk about my daughter, you know, things I understand that he did that maybe I didn't understand as a kid, or, you know, things like that, or honestly how much I've accomplished.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, both of my parents worked for Kroger when I grew up. Nothing against that. They provided us a great life, you know, and they always thought the future success for us was going to college.
Yeah.
And like, I don't.
Most from that generation, yeah.
Right. That was their.
We're learning nowadays.
Yeah. Not quite the case. Kind of sets you up for failure, to be honest, if it's not directed in a positive manner. But, you know, I went a totally different direction what they thought I should, and, you know, here I am. So,
yeah.
I just love to share that with him.
Yeah. I'm sure he's watching, man. I'm sure he's so proud of you, dude. Yeah.
I know he's watching.
Yeah. You carry people's spirit with you, man. I've always believed that.
Oh, he's in me for sure.
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, man. That's a crazy loss. And like you said, it's such a powerful time, you know, becoming a father.
Yeah.
Both a stepfather and a father to your own child.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're on a different route. You're busy. And then that happens. It's just like, what the hell? It's probably forced a huge identity shift. And I was going to ask this, but I'm pretty sure you'd be able to answer. Like, I was going to be like, who taught you to become a man? And
that was him.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, he led by example.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's the best kind of fathering you can do.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't really have to tell me. I could see it.
Yeah.
You know, he did what he had to do to provide for his family, and he was at every ball game. He was at every graduation. You know, That's what matters, being there.
Yeah.
And doing what needs to be done so your family's taken care of.
Yeah, whatever it takes.
Yep.
Well, thanks for sharing that, man. So, and then from there, things shifted a little bit more.
Yeah, they kept going. So fast forward to August, my beautiful daughter was born. So I'm 22 with a newborn and 2 stepkids, and then we immediately find out her mother had stage 4 cancer.
God.
So we battled that for 2 years. That was really tough, driving back and forth to Vanderbilt. Got a newborn, basically a single parent, raising 2 kids that aren't yours, and I'm 22.
God, dude.
So, and just to be honest, the 2-step boy's father, he was a great guy. We have a great relationship, but he wasn't very helpful,
Yeah.
at that time. I think he had his own issues he was dealing with, and which is fine, but it was just a lot.
Did you feel overwhelmed, but you weren't able to show it?
Completely, yeah.
That's a tough spot to be in, man.
Completely.
Yeah, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes. I can't, but I try to imagine. I'm just like, oh, God, I'm overwhelmed for you.
Yeah.
Thinking back at it. That's a lot to face at once.
There was a lot of prayers.
Yeah.
Laying in bed at night and, just praying like, hey, when is this phase going to be over?
Yeah.
Because it's rough, dude. It's like hell on earth.
Yeah, that was all in the matter of how many months?
Between my dad dying and her finding out she had cancer was 6 months.
Damn.
And my daughter being born in between there. Oh, my gosh, dude. Yeah, so major life situations.
Yeah.
At a very young age.
Yeah.
So, but going through all that, like there's nothing I can't overcome now.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I was faced with heavy adversity when I was very young. So now I just look at it and whatever, I'll get through it.
Yeah. And
no big deal.
Yeah. When it comes at you in that way, like there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I want to get rid of this stuff. And they choose like humility, right? Which is a good thing. But then when you're forced into humility, it's a totally different beast. And that's the test right there. Like
100%.
What are you made of?
That's it.
And fast forward to now, like you've proven yourself, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, I don't want to interrupt, man. Continue.
So from there, fast forward a few years, single dad, love it. Me and my girl, we have a very, very special bond. She's my world. She's my everything.
Yeah.
She's the reason we get up and do what we do.
100%.
Right. That's
Purpose.
why we grind and make sure we bring home bread every night. So, at that time I was working for Little Debbie, and I know it sounds weird. I was a bodybuilder working for Little Debbie, but that was my passion, and then that was my job. But it was a great job. I could work, 4 or 5 hours a day, and then I was still able to go work out, get my daughter, spend every night with her.
Yeah.
So it worked out really well. But I knew I didn't want to do that forever.
Of course.
So I had a guy approach me. He was making my meal preps actually, and he approached me about opening a business together, meal prep company / supplement company.
Okay.
So he was already doing the cooking. He was a chef, and I was like, I know about supplements. Let's do it.
Yeah. How old were you at this time?
28.
28. And quick question, being the age that you were going through all this, you had a lot of responsibilities.
Yeah.
How did that translate to your peers and the people in your life?
I think I set a good example for my brothers.
Okay.
And I have a lot of acquaintances. I have very few good friends.
Yeah.
Good friends, I would say, were probably worried for me because, unless you're an entrepreneur, you don't get it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't at that time either. But I was like, you know what? I can give this a shot. I've always been very conservative in how I estimate things. Yeah. So in my head, I hired my baby brother to run my route. So I didn't quit.
Mm-hmm.
He took over my route. We split my paycheck. So I took half of what I was living on to go try to do this thing. And I had $20,000 in my bank account.
Yeah.
$20,000 is what I spent to build out that supplement store.
For sure.
So I spent everything I had, dropped my monthly income in half, and then after that, I worked for literally right at a year, 7 days a week, open to close, no employees because I couldn't afford them.
Yeah.
And found out really quick there's no money in supplements.
Yeah.
So
God.
that was and we were in Portland, Tennessee.
Yeah, the margins and stuff.
Oh, they're worse now, but they weren't great then. And we were in Portland, Tennessee, which is not a great place to sell supplements.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what is in Portland. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly.
Nothing.
People are like, creatine, what the hell?
What the hell's that?
Yeah.
You got beans and cornbread in here?
That's what we're looking for.
Yeah. So anyway, I discovered that was not the place to be, and really not the business to be in, to be honest. And so fast forward a year, I did that with him. And this is the really cool thing, this is how God works in your life. One of my really good friends, Angela, I was training her for a show. I was prepping her for a show, and I seen a picture of this girl, and she was like, she's going to be at the show. She's competing the same show I'm competing in. And it's never happened to me before. I can't really explain it other than God, but I looked at the picture. It was my wife, but I was like, I got to meet that girl.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I need to meet her. So we went to the show, and it was literally my goal to meet her.
That's the only reason you went.
Well, my competitor was competing, so I was there for that too. But I sat in the same row as her mom, which is now my mother-in-law, and she was in the row with us. I chickened out. I didn't talk to her. And anyway, I sent her a message in between prejudging and night show. Just told her she looked good on stage, blah, blah, blah. And we started talking, and if you talk to her, she's never answered an Instagram message from somebody she didn't know.
Yeah.
Other than that one, So it was just a really crazy thing how that worked out. But
that's amazing. Not to interrupt, because I want to go circle back to that. I want to say, in that building phase, that, you were going through a lot of grief
for sure
prior to that, right?
Yeah.
Do you think building helped process that?
Maybe it was maybe a focused energy,
Yeah.
That I could channel some of those emotions and thoughts.
Did it rock your faith? Were you always a faithful person, or did it make you question, or did it just make it stronger?
I think for most people it probably would rock their faith, but it never did.
Yeah.
I knew there was another plan for me. I just didn't know what it was.
What version of you do you think at this time, what version of you think was died and was being born from that?
I think my character was just being formed.
Yeah.
Because at that time I was already dealing with what I would consider adult situations.
Yeah.
Right. So it wasn't me transforming from a boy to a man. I feel like I'd already done that.
Yeah.
I think it was just preparing me for the hard road ahead,
100%.
And entrepreneurship is nothing but a hard road.
Yeah. And, responsibility doesn't wait on grief,
No, absolutely not. Nothing does.
Nothing does.
Right. So you got to keep putting one foot in front of the other no matter what.
Yeah. 100%. Oh my God.
Almost didn't happen.
On my cello. Oh my gosh. Hold on. I've never done that before.
Can you play that?
Yeah, I do.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah, it's my baby. So moving forward, you're going through this season. You're getting into building this new business. You have somebody competing. You see, you may not have thought it at the time. I don't know. But there's this girl. You thought maybe she was the love of your life. You never know. Now, moving forward with that, because I took it back a little bit, understanding this, you wanted to meet her, and she had answered your DM. Was there any kind of fear in being vulnerable again in that way?
No.
No?
No. From the moment we started talking, it was just right.
Was there any guilt given the past?
No. I felt like that was just, another season. At this point, I feel like I've lived 3 different lives.
Yeah, you had to move forward.
It's, I had childhood. I had that season of my life, and I've got the season of life that I'm in now.
Yeah.
And they all feel so different.
Of course.
but that's part of my journey.
Yeah, 100%, dude. We're not even there yet. And so we're still kind of in some early stages of this
100%, yeah.
How old are you now?
36.
Okay. All right. I'll be 36 in April.
Yeah, 36. So I'm just getting started.
Yeah. Dude, I tell people that all the time.
Yeah.
6 years into my business, I'm pretty sure like last year it completely changed.
Yeah.
So,
and it will.
Just getting started, baby.
100%.
You know, we got a long way to go. So I relate to that too. And I think I tell everybody all the time. People look at your 30s. In entrepreneurship, you get it. Like when you're in that age frame, mid 30s to mid 40s, it's like, I feel like I'm in my prime.
You are.
Firing on all cylinders. Like things hurt a little more when I train, and
for sure.
Like I'm definitely aging.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like so much more energized and on fire than I ever have.
Yeah. Well, I think your expectations for growth are so much greater.
Yeah.
When you're in your 30s, when you're in your 20s, you see life as almost this never ending thing.
Yeah.
It's like almost without direction.
Yeah.
And when you're in your 30s, you kind of have at least for me, I have a direction and I'm pushing forward with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so motivating and fun. It's got, me and my wife have been doing this for almost 8 years in business together.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the Fuel Fortress is our third business.
Okay.
So we had the meal prep company. We opened a cookie store that was short-lived. It was actually really great. My wife made these insanely delicious, super stuffed cookies.
Oh God,
not healthy.
Yeah,
not healthy at all. So that was out of
kind of like Fat and Weird
wheelhouse. Yeah.
Yeah. God, I love those kind of cookies.
And so she made those, and we had our own shop. It was actually in the same strip center as our nutrition company.
Sweet.
But she was there 12 hours a day. I was GCing our new home, running Fuel Nutrition, and we had just bought the building to open our gym. And I ended up firing the GC on that, and I was GCing that myself too.
A lot of moving parts.
So many moving parts.
Damn, God. But you were on fire,
On fire, dude. That was one thing we'd always wanted to do, is open our own gym.
Yeah.
We love training at gyms around the country, seeing new equipment, different vibes, different atmospheres, and we wanted to create our own.
Mm-hmm.
We felt like it was really lacking. So we did that. And we quickly realized that it was something that a lot of people enjoyed.
Yeah.
And we could help other families, provide for themselves, doing something that they loved and that they were proud of.
Yeah. And I think, and I want to go back to like, the early growth of you guys, but I think you guys leading all this together, and from what it sounds like, y'all have a strong marriage. I think that just like enhances the environment of like a gym space so much more, right?
Definitely.
You can like definitely feel shifts based on like what the owners got going on in their life.
Definitely.
I've seen it up front.
Yeah.
But like if you've got this like wholesome couple, they love each other, they're invested in each other, but also like growth. Yeah. That creates such a powerful energy.
It does.
Yeah.
Well, she's my teammate.
100%.
And like, so I can count on her to work on these aspects of the business while I do kind of the forward thinking vision with selling the other franchises and things like that. She kind of keeps home base on tap, and I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
I know she's a hard worker just like I am. I know she's going to make right calls. She's going to make good decisions. And to be able to rely on somebody like that, I mean, it's really hard to replicate that in any other partner.
Yeah.
Like that you would just traditionally go into business with.
Yeah.
So if you can have that with your wife, and like, to be fair, most couples, I probably wouldn't recommend that to. Yeah. Like could you stand being with your partner 24 hours a day, every day? Most people.
I could say I could.
Yeah,
100%.
I can.
Yeah.
We do it every day. But I'd say for most couples, it's probably not a good idea.
I mean, I feel like even naturally, I don't know, not to speak for y'all, have y'all butted, I'm sure y'all butted heads on little things, but maybe not. We
don't argue.
You just stay in your lanes.
Yeah, we don't argue.
Yeah, there's like, because y'all probably got different personality. Like my wife and I, we mesh, we're so different, but we mesh together so well.
Yeah.
So I'm sure if she was like running things with me,
yep,
she would understand like, all right, she plays this part and this is what I do. And it would just go together so well. Yeah, very cohesive, right?
Very.
So, but obviously, how did y'all get to that place? So when you met, you know, you're talking about the DMs, and then I'll let you go from there, man.
So we had our first date, and we started dating for like 3 weeks. And my partner at the time, the meal prep guy, he wanted kind of out of the business. So I went to her, Katie, and I asked her, would you want to buy him out? So 3 weeks into dating, she had just graduated college to go for marine biology. So she was planning on moving to Miami, Australia, something like that.
Going scuba diving.
Scuba diving somewhere.
Yeah.
And she totally changed the direction of her life, moved from Clarksville to Bowling Green. And we didn't live together right off the bat. She wanted to provide for herself, and so she lived in a house that I owned, and then I lived in another house with my daughter, and we made it work, man. We bought him out 3 weeks into dating, and the rest is history.
Man, and then you just meshed together that well.
Yeah.
Was there any, like, and she was all about, like, you know, you having a daughter and everything like that?
Yeah, it was tough, you know, because she was young. She was 22 and I was 28. So she had just graduated college. I've got a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
Almost 6-year-old. And it's definitely a dynamic, right? Any type of step parent dynamic can be difficult, but she has been a fantastic mother.
Yeah.
And you know, to my daughter, she's mom.
It's the willingness to be that, even if, you know, some people, you're not my parent, you know, you're not my mom, because kids get emotional. They don't know what they're saying, like, but they do feel things, right?
Sure.
I mean, it's a lot of change for children as well.
Right.
And I've always commended people that step into being a step parent.
Yeah.
Knowing that it's someone, it is very selfless, especially if they're intentional about it and they want to do it right, because you do have to be ready for those moments, you know,
100%.
and like, you can't let it get to you.
Yeah. And my daughter's really good. So she doesn't say things like that. She doesn't, she considers her mom.
That's awesome.
It's not, that's not a thing, but 12 and 13 is an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah, for sure, man.
But we're getting over it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, you know, it's going to be a learning process, right?
Of course.
Nothing ever prepares you, no matter what anybody says, because every kid's different.
Yeah.
You just got to be, I always say the key is, man, like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm intentional about it, and it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
You know?
And we'll make the best of it.
Yeah. Intention is what it's all about. And I use that word all the time, because that literally goes towards everything you do in life.
Exactly.
Yeah. So with that, you know, so the rest was history. She changed her whole life.
Yeah.
To be close by.
Yep.
And then I imagine, you know, y'all eventually lived together, because she was like, all right, we're tired of this, like, separation.
We bought our first home together a couple years, maybe a year and a half.
Yeah.
After that.
Yeah. Heck yeah, man.
Moved in, sold the other house. So
your perspective on a lot of things that you've been through, I think, is very powerful already. Like, just from the past, 40 minutes we've been recording, I'm like, damn, man, a lot of people can take a lot from you. So I really appreciate it, you know, and you just moved forward with, I think, responsibility at the forefront.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really cool to see.
I think emotional maturity.
Emotional maturity. What does that look like?
To me, I think it's, because I see it with, you know, people I engage with on a daily basis. So whether that's customers, employees, whoever, but nowadays it seems like people just can't handle anything, you know? And like, it reminds me of my daughter. She's 13. And like, if she gets her mind on something and it doesn't go the exact way she thinks that it's going to go, dude, it's like a meltdown. You know, it's a crying session. But
she's a 13-year-old girl.
But she's a 13-year-old girl. And I have to deal with adults the same way that I do with her.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it's technology. I think some of it's, you know, soft parenting. But, you know, my parents taught me accountability and responsibility. And if you have some self-reflection, you know, you can find, in any bad situation, you can find something you could have done better.
Oh, yeah.
And if you put the power in your hands, right? So it was my fault, I can fix that. Yeah. If I said it's Joe's fault because this messed up,
you victimizing yourself.
I don't have any power over that.
Yeah.
Right? Because I can't control Joe.
100%.
So, you know, with it being my fault, what can I do better from this? And people don't ask that question anymore.
I saw that in my old building. You know, I had a lot of resentment towards the people around me.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, they did this. And like, I was raising the bar, but my mentor said it best. He's like, dude, you're victimizing yourself by having the drive to do so. Right. When all you need to do is look at them as a mirror. Why are you so upset about that? Right. And that changed everything.
Yeah.
I was like, I am being the victim.
Ask the right questions.
Yeah. And then so I looked at them and I'm like, I can't make their decisions for them, but they've shown me something in myself that I can improve to make better decisions moving forward.
Exactly.
So you've probably had a lot of that.
Yeah. I mean, because, you know, as an entrepreneur, if you wake up today and you don't have a problem, it's coming, right? There's a problem coming today.
Yeah.
So if I took out those emotions on my staff or my customers or my friends, my daughter, my wife, if I did that, I would have no relationships at all.
Oh yeah.
So I think I command respect that's one of the emotional maturity, I think, is one of the reasons that I garnish respect, because no matter what I'm going through, I'm not going to take it out on you.
Yeah.
You know, I'll just deal with it and I'll move on.
So what does the respect look like to you in action?
That's a good question. Respect. I think it's acknowledging that person's character is of high regard.
Yeah.
People know that I'm not going to screw them over. I'm not going to lie to them. I will be kind, generous. Now, I am a force, right? So that doesn't mean be weak. I am formidable. I am physically imposing.
Yeah.
But I don't need to show that.
No.
You know what I mean? I don't need to prove that. I don't need to talk about that. But people know it's there.
Exactly. But the way you're able to demand respect by like your actions through being kind and stuff like that.
Correct.
Right. But because they do know the other side of it, they also know they don't want to jack with you. So there's never a fear thing as much as they're like, man, I respect him because of all these things,
right? But
also know he's super capable, of wrecking shop if he needs to be.
Right. And, we're big guys. So it's not that, part of it is being physically imposing.
I think that matters. 100%.
Part of it's looking scary.
Yeah.
Whatever. But like the fact that you can look that way, but then be so generous and kind that that's what commands that respect,
Oh yeah. And I think it changes a lot of people's perspective. Yeah. When you're willing, I've had a friend say a long time, he's like, dude, you're the epitome of like, don't judge a book.
Yeah.
But that's a powerful thing.
Right.
When people's expectation are for you to be this dude that's all huge and like, oh man, he's going to be an asshole. They see you walk in the door and they're like, damn, that was the nicest guy I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
Like that's a really powerful thing.
It is. And like, I think that leaves a lasting impression on people.
Yeah.
And, that was one of the first things you said about me when you introduced me. You thought I was a nice guy.
Yeah.
And like, that's something people remember.
Yeah.
But they'll also remember you being a dick.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
They'll see you 10 years later and be like, oh, I had one conversation with that guy and he was a dick.
People could have that thought about you just by the people you're around. Cause I've run into that too.
Yeah.
A lot of people think I was a dick just because of people. And they're like, dude, you're not like the guy I thought you were. And I'm like, well, I'm glad I've transitioned seasons.
Cross that path.
Yeah. Because that'll have a lasting imprint as well, man.
Of course.
What lie do you think men believe today about themselves? Did
you say lie?
Yeah.
Number one, they believe they can fight. I think that's a big.
Oh God.
I'm in martial arts, so I teach Muay Thai and I take jiu-jitsu. So I love martial arts. I view it, we talked about it earlier, I view it as a sport. It's not, for me, it's not a form of aggression, or I actually don't like confrontation. So like if I have to discipline employees, as little confrontation as that sounds, I don't like doing it.
Yeah.
It's very uncomfortable for me to try to hurt somebody's feelings or not hurt someone's feelings.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to hurt somebody's feelings or put them down. I like lifting people up.
Yeah.
And martial arts is a great tool for that.
Mm-hmm.
I love bringing people in that are maybe timid or shy. We had one kid when we first started our gym. I started our striking class.
Yeah.
And this kid come in, he was real timid, real shy, long hair, played video games a lot, probably didn't have a lot of social interactions. And man, he stayed in that program for 2 years. And now he's out kicking ass, grinding in his career.
Yeah.
And he's doing great. But dude, he blossomed. You know, he
just changed him up
completely.
Yeah.
You know, it brought out confidence that wasn't there before. It can do that for people. And I love to see that. I love to see it in kids, you know, because I teach my daughter Muay Thai, and so she has a level of confidence that probably no other little girl has.
Yeah.
You know, knowing that she can defend herself and take care of herself and take some punches and keep going.
For sure.
And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very similar, you know, but I had a guy say something on Facebook, you know, you get haters. Yeah. And he was like, you used to be such a bitch. And, you know, you're the bitch of the group. And I'm like, okay, we were at bars fighting over nothing, and people started pulling guns out, and I'm the one like getting in the middle, like, everybody chill out, you know, and like
calm down.
I'm the sissy, like the one trying to alleviate this already escalated situation, because like I don't want that. Like I want to have a good time.
Yeah.
I just want to relax and meet new people.
Yeah.
Like if I'm a bitch for intervening and cutting, like trying to simmer things down, then so be it. But then like, you know, you see people that say stuff like that. Because you see it all the time. People think they can fight. People out at bars, and like this is why I don't even go out.
Yeah,
I don't even put myself in those environments because people get that way. Mm-hmm. But you know, you got those guys that'll do that. But if it comes to like, okay, let's like square up in a bare knuckle match,
I don't want to do that.
They'll look crickets.
Yeah,
you know, it's like okay.
You know, the loudest person in the room is always the most insecure.
Yeah,
whether it's money, fighting, what status, whatever.
Yeah,
when they've got to talk about it and be loud about it, they're really not about it.
Oh, yeah.
And you see that with fighting a lot, but they'll never show up in the gym.
Then those guys, I have so much, even if they can't really fight, but they're willing to step in the fire and challenge themselves.
Yeah.
In that,
I got respect for that.
That way, you know, it says so much about their character.
100%.
Because they're willing to do it.
Yeah.
When everybody's watching.
Look, man, so when I went to Nashville MMA for the first time, I had just got out of bodybuilding. I was burnt out with it. I'd done it for 10 years. I was making a delivery. And me and this guy were walking in at the same time, and he was like, hey, are you, he recognized me. He's like, hey, are you Josh? I was like, yeah. He said, yeah, my friend was telling me you were wanting to start fighting. I was like, well, not really fighting. I was like, I'm hitting a bag. You know? Yeah. I have no training. I'm hitting a bag for cardio, you know? Yeah. And he was like, well, you should come down and spar with us on Sundays. And I was like, okay, cool. So I did. And turned out, you know, that guy was Tony Johnson, which has fought Daniel Cormier, Chet Congo, like all these huge names, and he's still fighting over in Europe, and he's doing a great job.
Oh, yeah.
And he was the heavyweight champ over there last year. So, but I didn't know who I was being invited by. Right?
Right.
I didn't know this was a killer. So I went in there, and he politely beat the shit out of me. And everybody, so when anybody in a martial arts gyms sees a bodybuilder come in, they all want to fuck him up. Yeah.
Like, let's jack this dude up.
Yeah, because they know he can't fight. They know he can't move. He's going to get real tired real fast, and he's going to be a punching bag. So I stepped in the fire, and once I got that ass beating, I was addicted. I was like, man, I'm going to beat all these guys up one day.
Yeah.
I will come until that happens.
Yeah.
You know,
and you just kept going.
I just kept going. I love it.
That's awesome, man. You know, you could see where it can, I mean, it's a positive way to like kind of crush your ego too.
Oh, 100%.
You know? Yeah. When some like, I remember doing jujitsu and I'm like, bigger dude there.
Yeah.
And you know, my black belt, of course I know he's a black belt. I know he knows his stuff.
Right.
But he's like a fraction of my size, and he's just like makes me look like a pretzel. And I'm like, man, this is bullshit. You know what I'm saying? But you respect it so much more. You're like, dude, I also love that, man. That makes you better. But some people can't handle that.
No, they can't handle that ego crush. But I mean, honestly, like that's what makes you a better person.
Truly.
When you walk around here and you know that, hey, there's somebody better than me out here.
Yeah.
So maybe I should watch my mouth. Maybe I should mind my P's and Q's. You know, maybe I should carry myself in a different way that most people don't do anymore. It's a very disrespectful, self-centered society.
It really is, man. It's not as communal, but you're big on that, obviously, because you're a gym owner, right?
Yeah.
Well, take us a little bit through the journey now. So y'all opened that first gym. You know, we kind of went into that whole subject, the masculinity and identity and stuff like that. So y'all move in together. Y'all start a few businesses. You got the cookie thing going on, all that stuff. I think about the cookies because I just love cookies.
So did I.
Baked goods, man. It's like God, it crushes me, dude. So what led to actually opening? You had the space for the gym. So how did that initially go? And then what led to more?
So we had a realtor friend of ours that was a customer and a good friend. And I'd always told him, like, hey, I would love to open a gym one day.
Yeah.
And he found a space, and it was right down the road. I thought it was a great location. It was a little bit smaller than what, all the other gyms in town were, but I knew we were going to be doing something different.
Yeah.
And in my city, I didn't know if that would work, because, we were going to be smaller, but more expensive. Mm-hmm. But we were also going to provide a premium experience and a premium product. So, we took a leap of faith. We bought that building. Well, actually, we sold a piece of commercial property that we had so we could buy that building. So we bought that building, did all the renovations. Took us about 6 or 7 months. And we got open, and we had great success right out of the gate. People were really excited about it, really loved it, and very thankful for that. And then, we kept having people tell us, you got something special here, and, you should do this other places. So we started looking into franchising, and this is our third business. So we'd already learned a lot of the hard lessons and knew what to do, what not to do. And we executed a lot better. And so we started looking into franchising. I started looking up lawyers, and, just to get our franchise disclosure document done was like $30,000, so it's another leap of faith, so entrepreneurship is nothing but taking all your chips, throwing them in the center of the table.
And you also have to have trust in the people that are going to franchise.
Right.
Because it's not you running that place anymore. It's like somebody else taking your name.
And it's your name.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's your image on the line.
That's a lot of trust.
It is. But when comparing the two, corporate versus franchise, because you can be fantastic in both. But when you do corporate, I think your growth is a lot slower unless you have a lot of venture capital money behind you. So I wanted to grow fast because I think, speed leads to success. So you got to hit the market before anybody else does, right? If you got something special, you got a niche, because inevitably there's going to be imitators, and we've already seen them.
Yeah.
So, so we wanted to go the franchise route. And what's good about the franchise is, we can't be everywhere at once.
Yeah.
But every one of those has their own owner that is there.
Yeah.
They put their money on the line. They put their life on the line. They love this. It's their baby. So they're able to treat each location like it's home base.
Yeah.
Because it is.
And it all comes to center. Now, I do want to say, it's interesting, you're talking about your success there. I've heard people in the past, whether it's online entrepreneurs or whatever, they're like, never get into the gym business. It's a money pit. You're going to lose it all. And you've probably heard that too.
Of course.
So understanding that, and you've probably seen a lot of gyms fail.
Yeah.
How did you, mentally navigate that? How do you stand out and be something different that is succeeding? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's a multi-layered question, but yeah.
So you got to be a niche for sure.
Okay.
Right. You got to serve your one avatar. And that's the key. You can't, this is what most gyms try to do, and that's why they fail, is they want to serve everybody. Right. They want to have every amenity known to man. They want to have the biggest square foot possible, which all these are starting to fail, right? Because all the overhead that goes into that just doesn't make sense for $10, $15, $20 a month anymore. Yeah. Everything is so expensive now that doesn't work. You're talking about, if you wanted to do that, you're talking about $3 to $5 million project and charge $15 a month. Yeah. The numbers just don't work anymore. But when you try to serve everyone, you serve no one. And another differentiate, so we serve a very specific clientele. We provide a premium experience and a premium product to a premium customer, and they love that.
So what does that, if you could describe, what does that avatar, person look like?
It's me and you, it's 28 to 45-year-olds that are financially sound. They enjoy the gym. They enjoy networking and the relationships they make in a gym, because the gym is like no other place.
Yeah.
Right. It's almost like church.
Yeah.
It's not the same, but it kind of, right?
Mhm.
You build community there. You form really good, lasting relationships. I mean, some of my best relationships I have are all from the gym, including my wife.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we provide. But when you have a model that's for everyone, you get this really weird dynamic of people that come in. You'll have homeless people come in and taking showers just because, it's $10 a month and they can have safe refuge at night and take a shower and clean up, and there's nothing against that, but is that the environment you want to be in?
Yeah. Yeah. And your clients and stuff like
Right.
the people that pay to be there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, but also with the lower end clientele, they break your stuff. They don't take care of it. It's usually dirtier, so we wanted to provide something different. But yeah, we started our first business with a restaurant, which is the number one riskiest business that you can go into.
Oh, yeah.
And, once again, we had a niche. We were healthy food, that was basically fast food prices.
Mm-hmm.
So, we made it work in the restaurant. We knew we could make it work with the gym.
Yeah.
So we've done the two most likely businesses to go out of business, and we've been successful with them.
Things have turned out well. And I think it's just staying focused on what that niche looks like and everything, right? And
stay in your lane.
Yeah, yeah, because I'm sure it could, as things grow, I'm sure opportunities come in to be like, that probably seem pretty tempting that are like, and it's going to force you to be more broad.
Exactly.
So you have to be willing to be like,
you have to be willing to say
turn
no.
This, yeah. That's been a hard thing for me.
It is.
But it's been very beneficial too.
And a lot of the longer you're in the game, we talked about this earlier, the longer you're in the game, the more opportunities that are going to find you.
Yeah.
And that means more than likely you're going to have to say no more.
Yeah.
Because you're focused on what you have and the vision that you've got going for your business.
Yeah. And a lot of people learn to do that. For me, it was really hard to do. Just, when you're in a certain season too, it's like you just take any opportunity.
Right.
But then you realize like, it may give me a good paycheck up front, but it's going to pull away from like the focus of what needs to grow.
If this is giving me this, how much am I losing on what I'm not paying attention to?
Yeah.
Right. And if it just offsets, it's not a benefit.
Yeah, exactly. So what actually aligns with the path I'm going? And that's how I'm analyzing everything now. Like someone brings an opportunity to the table. I'm having a meeting next week, if it aligns with the direction I'm heading, well, then I'm just going to be continuing to do what I'm doing already, but
right,
basically strengthening it a little bit more.
Exactly.
And that makes sense. And you obviously got people that are there to lift and train, but you obviously have a lot of people that are interested in martial arts side of things too.
Yeah.
Because not every gym offers that as well.
No, it's kind of a unique, and it's a community of its own.
Yeah.
Our gym community is a little bit different than our martial arts community.
Yeah.
Some of our martial artists don't even use the gym.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, they just got their own little thing. Yeah.
They love class.
That's cool, man.
They just want to learn self-defense, and, some of them want to learn how to fight. I'm not really into training fighters anymore. My coach, Dorian, doesn't love training fighters anymore, and now I get it.
Fighters are a whole nother animal.
It is. It's like bodybuilders. They're going to take what they can get from you and leave you in the dust.
Yeah, I'm not trying to go after the bodybuilding industry, but there's a lot of bodybuilders I like and care about, but also don't ever want to like my business to be in the bodybuilding industry the way it was.
Yeah,
because
I have great friends.
Yeah,
that
same.
are bodybuilders. And I did it. I did it for 10 years.
But the industry is a little different than like individuals.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Because I saw that. Like, take what you can get, and then when you can't get no more, it's like, peace out.
All right, see
you
ya.
suck. And it's like, damn, okay. Yeah. I was trying to be nice.
Right. That's it. You
Yeah.
know? And so the general demographic of people are much easier to serve. They appreciate, the lessons that you're teaching them, and they appreciate the skill set that you're providing for them.
Like, I think the fighting community is great because I think it's awesome people like willing to pursue that.
100%.
Professionally. Like, that takes a lot.
Yeah.
It's a huge sacrifice. You're getting paid
Completely.
to train all those hours and go to camp. Like, I respect that a lot. Same with bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Like, it's when you're putting yourself up on stage and you're trying to do your best, like, man, it takes a lot out of your life to be dedicated to that.
And your pocket.
Yes.
It's an expensive sport.
Exactly. But as somebody that's maybe in that side of business of things, and you see this in every aspect, there's just entitlement.
Oh yeah.
When people take it on a certain way. Oh, yeah. And it's like, dude, we're all like, we're all doing similar things in a way, right? Like
we're on an even playing field.
Yeah. You're not better than somebody because you are like, you're going to get on stage next year. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like they may be pushing just as hard as you in different ways.
Yeah. Correct.
You see what I'm saying?
Other aspects of life.
Yeah. It's all what other people choose to put their time towards. Yeah. Right.
Your attention is a valuable resource.
Yeah. You always hear like we all have the same 24 hours. And I heard this somewhere, but I disagree. Like, sorry, I'm taking that out of context. We all do have 24 hours in a day, but none of it looks the same. People are like, we all have the same. It's like going to the gym. Everybody has time to go to the gym. And I think it's just what you make time for.
What's your priorities?
Yeah. What's your priorities? Because I know some go-getters, man, that like bust their tail in entrepreneurship as family men. They don't take care of themselves and their health.
Right.
But I'm not going to frown upon that because you're putting other people's ahead of you. Like that's noble, but it catches up with you too. So how do you switch that up a little bit? So I think it's
really tough to be good at all of it.
Yeah.
Really tough to be good at all of it.
Well, social media is the worst.
Yeah. Cause you're comparing yourself.
Yeah. Like I'm not going to compare myself to someone that's 22 that lives in a high rise in Miami that's like making cool videos all the time. Like, and making all this money. Like
it's the thief of joy.
It is.
And I think that's why a lot of people are so unhappy is they look at this highlight reel that people put on social media and it's like, it's just that. It's a highlight reel. And like a lot of times they just stage those highlight reels.
Yeah.
They're not even living that life.
Yeah.
They're staging them. So you're comparing yourself to something that's not real.
Yeah.
And, I've got some people that got life by the balls, they've got great family, great jobs, great opportunities, money in the bank, and like they're still unhappy, and you got to figure out what makes you happy.
Yeah. I like to take people along the journey with me, man. I want it to be authentic. So
yeah,
you'll see the highlight reel one day, but along the way you're getting it all, and I think that's real though.
Right.
Like why not share the truth?
Absolutely.
And because I know there's going to be a highlight reel point. Yeah. And there's always going to be, I'm always going to pursue more. And there's something you said, man, that I wanted to slip my mind, dude.
That happens to me too.
You're scaring me. No, I'm just kidding. No, it'll come back. What I'm getting at, the comparison thing. And I can see where comparison's healthy. I was telling a friend, he was like, comparison, don't do that. And I'm like, well, it's one thing for me to look at someone very successful, maybe in a lane I do things, right? Like for broad example, Joe Rogan or Andy Frisell, you see their success in like podcasting, right? The fact of the matter is like, I see that and like, but I'm working towards that. I don't know what my level of success will get to. I'm just going to keep pushing forward. My expectation isn't to have exactly what they have because I'm not them.
Right.
But I can look at it as inspiration and be like, dude, I just got to keep going, man.
This is how I can go.
Yeah. But I got to also stay true to myself because I don't want to be them.
Yeah.
I can't be them.
No.
So I got to be very specifically myself while working towards that kind of goal.
But that's what's valuable because they're not you.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So you can, I think it's in how you internalize it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at these comparisons and you think, oh, my life sucks because I don't live like that. Now that gets you nowhere.
Yeah.
But if you look at somebody's success and be like, okay, well, they did it. So I know I can achieve it too.
Yeah.
Right. That's a different way to look at it.
Yeah.
And it's mainly what I was talking about was like material things.
Oh yeah.
When you're talking about like, hey, someone in my space has accomplished, $100 million a year in a podcast space. That tells me I can do that.
Yeah. In my mind, I'm like, they just got time.
Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm maximizing that. And I think the difference is like you got a cell phone, right? And you're looking through and you see this person and you got the person that's sitting there watching that saying, damn, my life sucks. I want that life. And they keep scrolling.
And they put the phone down. Yeah.
Or you got the person that looks at it and it's like, fuck, I don't know. That fired me up. And they get up and they go do something about it. That one moment can change everything.
Yeah. And we've heard that from like our gym because people will say, well, it's intimidating because people that are in there are fit. And it's like, okay, well, that's a perception problem.
Yeah.
Not everybody in our gyms is fit.
Yeah.
But if you perceive everyone in there as being fit, okay, you can look at that two different ways. You can say they're fit and I don't fit in, or you can say that's motivating. I know I can achieve that. That's my goal.
Yeah.
right? And it can light a fire under your ass and make that happen.
Yes.
But it's all in how your mentality creates actions.
Yeah. And step back, realizing, well, like a lot of them probably used to not be fit.
Right.
So they had to get there somehow.
Maybe they come from a worse starting position than you.
Yeah.
What if they just sat there and didn't come in the gym? They'd never reach it.
110%, man. I love that. I do want to ask too, faith has been a big part of your journey, right? Dive into that a little bit. Was there time that, have you always had a solid foundation and you chosen to just be extremely faithful? Or do you think some of the pain you've experienced and grief has pushed it a little bit, right? Like it maybe pushed by pain or,
I think this is kind of a boring answer, but it's a true answer.
Yeah.
I grew up in church. I was always faithful and believed heavily in my faith. I don't push that on other people. By no means. I don't preach at people. I think that's a huge turnoff to people. But I do let people know about good things that God's doing in my life.
Yeah.
And if I can exude a Christian lifestyle that people perceive, right? So I'm not cheating on my wife. I'm not stealing from the company. I'm not doing all these things. They would associate my behaviors with Christianity, right? So that's how I choose to live. And if I can bring people to God by my actions, I think that's kind of my calling.
Kind of like like you said about, I think you said about your father, like he led by example.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
lead by example.
It's so simple. Yeah. Just be the example. Because my spiritual path differs a little bit, but like, God's at the center of it, right? Yeah. And so to me, it's like, I've had people come like, oh, you need to do this and whatever, kind of attack about it.
It's really off-putting.
It is off-putting. So it's like, well, you're not pulling me towards your way of doing things by any means. If anything, you're like strengthening my conviction.
Right.
And, but too, it's just like, I don't know. I don't feel the need to preach to anybody. Like I talk about it, because it's part of my brand and who I am.
Right.
And it's a time to be bold about stuff. Right. And that's part of my identity. And it's just, yeah. But at the same time, it's like, I just share my perspective on stuff, and through my experiences, not to like push anybody in any direction. I really want to bring people together.
Same.
And not for BS unity. I talked about this the other day, but more so of like that collective alignment, right? Like different pieces of a puzzle.
Yeah.
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 And to me, it's just like, it always comes back to that. Like, what does living a godly life look like?
Yeah.
If you're walking that, that's all you need to do.
That's all you have to do.
That's how we actually make change. But a lot of people are shouting things.
Yeah, because people will see it.
Yeah.
Right? They will see by your example and how you walk.
Yeah.
You don't need to tell them. That's just like the insecure person.
The telling and the shouting.
Same thing.
Yes.
The people who need to shout how much you need to be in church and do this and do that because of God, they're usually hiding a lot of demons.
Yes.
Right? I don't need to do that.
And they're driving that wedge even further, man.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you're causing more of a divide.
Yes.
Because people, when someone's if I attack you with my opinion on what I think you should do, well, that's just going to push you in your way of doing things, whether it's right or wrong, even further. Because naturally, I think people don't really like to be told what to do.
No.
So we naturally like to rebel against that stuff, right? So you see all these things going on in the world. You got one side, you need to do this. And they're like, screw you, I'm doing this. And it gets louder and it gets louder. Yeah. And it's like these towers are growing taller, but angled outwards even further.
Well, when they preach at you, it's instinctual, like defiance, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to push that away because he's telling me how to live.
Yeah.
And you're not doing any, and like, it's really funny. My daughter, ever since the Charlie Kirk thing, like she's gotten really into like debating.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you can imagine how that
this
goes.
13-year-old girl,
13-year-old girls debating politics, which I've tried to get her to stop doing, but love her to death. I'm glad she's strong in her convictions.
Yeah.
I'm glad she doesn't concede to what other people think when the crowd is against her. I think that's great. So I try not to stifle that.
Yeah.
But, if you're debating with people on why they should be in God, you're probably just going to push them away. You're not going to convince people.
100%.
Right? But if you can live a way that they want to emulate, So if I walk this way, act this way, carry myself this way, I have this lifestyle, well, God did that for me.
Yeah, Christ literally just did that.
Yeah. It wasn't me.
Nobody, he didn't make a religion after himself.
Right.
We chose to, right?
Yeah.
But Christ was just like, hey, dude, this is the walk.
Yeah.
Here's what you got to do.
Here's how you walk.
It was very simple.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad I'm glad we align on that. That's really cool, man, because leading by example is the most important thing. And it trickles into everything that you do. And I think that's what takes you to another level as a leader in the household, as a father, as a husband, but also in your business, man. Like that kind of shit stands out.
It does.
People are going to see that. They may hear the loudest voice first, but when you keep walking by example, man, they're going to be, oh, that's actually.
You will surpass them.
Yes, 100%, man. I really appreciate that. Do you think, I had something else I wanted to say. And this goes back to the grief aspect, but what do you think that taught you about God?
I think one of the biggest things that I try to exude is humility.
Yeah.
I've never been an egotistical person, so that's not something I struggle with. But I do think that's why I've been blessed.
Yeah.
I think he saw me through some really low valleys, and now he's given me some mountaintops.
Right on, man.
And we're gonna for sure see more valleys.
Yeah.
But I'm very, I say prayers daily that are, I'm so thankful for this good time, and I wouldn't know how great right now was if I didn't have my valleys. If I hadn't have went through such hell, I probably wouldn't have appreciated how great life is right now.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Man, you just hit me because I was talking to my wife and I was just kind of venting some stuff.
Yeah.
And, it's been just a grind, like I said. And I was just like, I was thinking about all these things I wanted in my head. And I was just about to just go off on that. I wanted this. And then, and then I looked at her and I was just like, it just like something hit me in the top of the head. And I was like, never mind. She's like, what? I was like, I'm actually good.
Yeah.
She's like, that was a weird. And I was like, no, I'm just like, what's the point, dude? I got everything I need.
Yeah.
I looked at you and it centered me. Yeah. Like I'm just grateful.
Yeah.
And
I've already got everything I need.
Isn't that the best place to be?
Yeah.
You take away your business and everything and you realize you can come home and look and be like, dude, I'm set.
I'm cool.
Yeah. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's such a beautiful thing. What does, Christ look like in business? Like walking like Christ or Christ leading the way. What does that look like in your business?
I think for me, it's really simple. It's treating people how I'd want to be treated. And I know that's very simplistic, but I think the reason, because like we've got 6 locations done and we're working on 7 more. And we've only been not a franchise, a business for 3 years, right? So we've only franchised for 2.
Yeah.
And there's been 0 in marketing. So all of that is through word of mouth and relationships.
Cool.
So I think it's so easy for me to create that growth because when I talk to these potential franchisees, I'm just honest.
Yeah.
Like this is what it's going to look like. This is what it'll cost. These are the problems you're going to have. This is the potential revenue for your family. And, this is the highs, this is the lows, and I'm going to be here every step of the way to support you and help you through all that. And I build trust really fast.
Yeah.
Because it's very transparent.
Transparency is key.
I'm not trying to sell them anything.
Yeah.
It's just, hey, we're talking. We've formed a really good relationship really quick. And they can tell that I'm going to follow through with my word.
Yeah.
I think your word's still everything to me. And it's not to a lot of people. But if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. And you're transparent about it up front.
Yeah.
And that applies to business and applies to every single relationship.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's a biblical trait.
Yeah.
Treat people as you'd want to be treated. I would want to know what the downfalls are. I'd want to know what issues I'm going to run into.
Yeah.
So I tell them that up front.
All right, man. Just double check.
The worst thing in the world is to be doing that and then not record it.
Oh, dude, I'm always checking. So this screen on that camera, the reason I have it facing me is because it flips towards me.
Yeah.
So I can see. That one I can barely see it. The screen's just a little weird, but I've got it set up to where I can check things.
Yeah.
Are there any areas that you think, for lack of better terms, in your life that you may be slightly fragile, or something that you're working on as an individual to improve, right?
So me and my wife joke a lot. One of the things that I can definitely do better is being present in the moment. So, and I'm sure you deal with this too. I think every high performer deals with this, because you're always thinking about tomorrow, next week, next year. You know, what's the goal? What am I striving to get to? What meetings do I have coming up? What projections do I have? What goal am I going to hit this quarter? You know, so I'm always forward thinking. So it's kind of hard to be present. And you know, we'll go on vacations, and you know, I have a fantastic marriage, but she'll be talking about something, and she'll be like, "You remember when we did that at that restaurant? We ate that." I'm like, "No."
You making this up?
Yeah, I don't. She's like, "Yeah, you know, we were in Miami and we did that and we whatever." I'm like, "I don't remember that at all," you know. But she puts it really well. She's like, "Your filing cabinet's full," you know. So, and she's very, very understanding of that, because she understands what I'm doing and why my attention is where it is. But I think I need to be more intentional with being present in the moment with my wife and my daughter, you know.
Yeah.
And I have been doing that the past several months. I make an intentional effort to listen, because my daughter talks a lot.
Yeah.
She's a 13-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just word vomit, and there's not a whole lot of meat and potatoes in what she's saying. You know what I mean? But I've tried to be really, really intentional to like stop what I'm doing, pay attention, listen, engage.
Yeah.
Because she's not gonna be in my house forever.
Oh man.
You know, a year and a half from now, she'll have a permit.
Yeah.
You know, and a couple years after that, she may be out of the house. So that's kind of hit me hard this year. So I really want to be more intentional about that.
Yeah, those moments are fleeting.
They are.
You know, and I feel you there.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is something like I struggle with pretty heavily.
I miss the time that your daughter's in right now.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's the best.
Yeah, I know. I find myself like reflecting on it, and even then she does something new or says something different, and it's just like, oh my God, you're an adult now. You know, like you've grown so much. You know, but no, it's like, holy crap, like just like that, like so much changes happen, like just in how she speaks or moves or whatever. And it just hits you in the chest.
Start having thoughts of her own.
Yeah.
You know, it's.
And then anytime you're not present, you're just like, it's like I get frustrated with myself if I do feel absent, but again, it's so hard. And what you're doing directly affects your family.
Yeah.
And so presence is so important, but at the same time, it's like, but you have to think ahead. Like if you're growing something, you got to think ahead, because it directly affects them. It's like finding that middle ground. I think I'm at a place where like, it's never going to be perfect. Yeah. Like I'm going to have to think ahead and be that way. And sometimes I just got to show myself grace. Like sometimes my mind may not be present depending on the pressure of the day or what's going on. But it's like, there's a book called The 4 Agreements. And the last agreement is always do your best, right? Yeah. And so obviously it applies to those lessons, but I think that's just in life. Just do your best, like intentionally. Yeah. But also show yourself enough grace to fall short a little bit.
Right.
And like
keep walking.
Yeah. And grace, I imagine you're similar. You probably don't show yourself much grace, or
not a lot. I have really, really high expectations for myself.
Yeah.
Super high standards, and I have no expectations for anybody else.
Oh my God. Dude, I wrote about this. Like I can have so much compassion and understanding for someone else and what they've been through and their experiences and mistakes they've made. And I can be like, oh my gosh. But then it's me, my standard's so high. It's like, nah, Joe, no slack on your ass.
At all.
I'm like, boom, boom. I'm brutal to myself.
Yeah.
Same. And dude, well, if you ever have one of those moments, just call me. Yeah. I feel like, Joe, man.
Sometimes, like, you know, she'll word vomit on me, because she'll like stay up in her room a lot of the times, and then when she comes downstairs, she'll word vomit for like 30 minutes, and then she's back upstairs in her room. You know, so sometimes when she does that, and like maybe I'm looking at numbers, or I'm checking the stats from the day or the data, and while she's talking, and you know, once she goes back upstairs, I'm like, damn, she's probably not coming back down tonight.
Hey, come back.
And I miss that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll go upstairs. Maybe she's asleep. I'll kiss her on the head, tell her I love her. So that's me trying to make up for not being present in that moment.
Yeah. But I'm sure she sees that and she feels that. You know what I'm saying?
She does.
But it's hard.
It is.
It is so hard, man. But again, you're intentional about it. What if you could pass something on to her, man, like one nugget, like of value to carry on with her life? What do you think that would be?
I think it would be to be resilient,
Mm.
And that's what I try to show her daily is resilience.
Yeah.
Life's going to kick you in the teeth.
Yeah.
Many, many times. And that's kind of what I was saying about expectations. I don't really have expectations.
Yeah.
So I think where we get upset or we get depressed or feel down, I think is when we have these super high expectations and they don't happen. So if you can keep your expectations to almost nil, when something good happens, it's great.
Yeah.
Right. And if something bad happens, well, it's okay. I'll just deal with it and we're going to move on. But if I can instill some resilience in her, I feel like I would have accomplished my goal.
I love that, man. That's such an important lesson too. Do you think, you're saying, talking about the expectations early on, I used to build these crazy expectations and I'd be so set on this happening by this time. Yeah. And that's not been the case.
It will never happen.
Oh my God. And the worst part is I get so excited about the opportunities, right?
Yeah.
So I go tell my wife, hey, honey, this is going down. This year we're doing this. And then it doesn't happen. And that was really hard because she had to be forward with me. She's like, Joe, like, you can't keep doing that. Yeah. And I felt so guilty. And I'm like, but like, you're the person I want to share it with.
Right.
But it's also like, something you learn as you go. We communicated about it. It's just like, hey, man, I don't know what's ahead, but you see, she sees everything going on and she believes in it just as me. Right. But like eliminating the idea of like, okay, by this date,
right.
But you get amped up, man. You're so excited about what you do and what you build that like it's hard. You've got to learn the tough way.
Yeah, it's leaving it on God's time, not your time.
Yeah,
and that's been a hard lesson for me too, because me and my brothers also do real estate together. So, we're looking for this project to close on this date and get it sold so we can do this other project and keep moving forward. And I need. If this franchise closes, I can go do this and I can go,
Yeah.
So you make these plans. If they don't come to fruition, well, the rest of them fall apart, you know? So, be intentional with your plans, but it will never be on your timeline.
Yeah.
My daughter went to a beta convention this weekend, and the day before she left, she was like, oh, hey, we might swim in the pool. I need a new bathing suit because I can't have a kid bathing suit anymore. I was like, you need to do this now, right? You didn't tell me earlier in the week. Like, I was wanting to spend time with you before you left tomorrow. So anyway, I pick her up. I take her to a couple stores. We found a couple bathing suits, which we still got to spend time together. So.
Yeah.
But like in her mind, if she didn't get this bathing suit, like that was the end of the world. Like her friends were going to make fun of her. It was going to be the worst thing ever. And then she gets out there and like I told her, they're not even going to be able to swim. So, like we have these expectations for like what life is going to be, and it just doesn't work out that way. Yeah. But what you can come to realize is that God might have a better plan in store for you than what you did.
Yep.
You might have thought what you were doing was a level 10. Well, he had a level 100 waiting, and you just didn't see it.
Dude, I mean, even recently, like you saying that, it's like I've had some other opportunities kind of creep in over the past several months. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. But for some reason, that door just like won't open up. Yeah. And it's like, even trying to, I go back and shake it again. I'm like, still locked, man. Yeah. But then like immediately after, like, boom, boom, these opportunities line up and then the door is open. And I'm like, oh, that's why those didn't.
I was waiting on that.
Yeah. Like I was checking it, but I wasn't trying to bash through. And, because at certain points you find yourself trying to just headbutt through the wall. Yeah. And it's like, dude, it's got to open at some point. But then
I've learned not to do that.
Yeah.
Through trial and error.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I beat my head a lot.
Yes, I had to.
And those doors stayed shut, but they stayed shut for a reason. And then he opened other doors.
100%, man. And I love that. That's some good wisdom right there. if you were to say you were scared of one or the other, you may not fear either one. I'm not going to say fear, but I guess if you had to choose, what would scare you most now, failure or comfort?
Comfort, probably. Yeah. And that's why I still train martial arts. I still like to spar. You know, I drill myself. I put myself in hard training sessions because I don't want to be docile.
No.
Right? I don't want to be comfortable to the point where I don't know what pain is, because pain is a motivator.
Yeah.
And pain is what is, it's one of the things that's propelled me forward.
Yeah.
You know, I've always got a physical goal and a business goal, you know, so a couple of years ago I fought, right? That's my physical goal.
Yeah.
And obviously we know what the business goal is. You know, we want to get to 100 locations. So I think keeping both of those keeps you sharp.
Yeah. Hell yeah, man. Yeah. And I think that's like, I love your goal. It's a big goal.
It's a big goal.
I believe in you. I think you're going to make it happen, man. I'm here to watch it now.
I think we'll do it.
Is there anything you really feel inclined to say today?
I would like to see men as a whole just kind of step up a little bit, you know, be the men we were called to be biblically, you know, not self-interested, you know, emotionally stable, disciplined, hardworking, diligent, you know, all those factors come into play to really create a man, and a man really creates society.
Yeah.
You know, and all this toxic masculinity shit is so stupid.
Yeah.
Because in the absence of masculinity, you have chaos.
Mm-hmm.
When you have nothing but weak men, you have a collapsed society.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of what we have at the top right now.
Yeah.
You know, we have just a bunch of weak men leading this country, and it doesn't matter what side you're on, they're all weak. Yeah. So I think strong men need to step up into leadership roles. They need to lead their households. You know, go out, pursue more. Don't be a lazy sack of shit that sits on the couch and plays video games and gets high all the time.
Yeah.
You know, go out, do something hard every day, physically. Challenge yourself mentally. You know, I think every man needs to be competent in those four aspects, you know, physically, financially, intellectually, and spiritually.
Yeah.
You know, and physically, go work out, right? You ain't got to be a bodybuilder. You ain't got to be a martial artist. Go lift some weights.
Yeah.
It'll raise your testosterone levels.
Yeah.
It'll make you think a little more clearly.
Yes, sir.
Make some better decisions. Intellectually, you don't have to be the smartest person in the world, but be willing to learn. Mm-hmm. You know, accept new knowledge into your life. Just because we got out of school doesn't mean you stop learning. Yeah. Financially, be someone who is competent, you know, can save, discipline what they're spending, you know, have a goal. And spiritually, you know, walk in faith.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that will lead to a better society as a whole if all men could come together and do that.
Right on, man. Well stated. Who do you think you are becoming?
I think I'm becoming the man I was supposed to be.
Hell yeah. And what are you building beyond business?
A legacy.
Oh yeah.
You know, for my family.
Good stuff.
Me and my brothers, I'm very close to my brothers, and we're all kind of breaking the mold for our family. You know, my other two brothers are very successful as well. And we use each other as sounding boards, and I'm glad to have them as, you know, backbones to run things off of, and sounding boards. And I can trust them to give me sound advice, you know, that probably no one else will give me.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you can lean into them in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. They care unlike anyone else.
I love to hear that, man. Yeah. Finally, you ready for it?
I'm ready.
Josh, what is your relentless pursuit?
My relentless pursuit is to be the best I can be every day for the people that I care about.
I love it, man. Beautiful. Yeah. Josh, where can everybody find you? How can others support you out there that are checking this out?
So go check out our website. It's www.fuelfortress, FUEL, fortress.com. We've got all of our locations on there. They each have their own Instagram and Facebook profiles, so go check those out and be on the lookout for all of our other locations coming soon.
Hell yeah. Guys, check them out. Show some love. Dude, it's been a pleasure having you today. Thanks for the honor of hosting you.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate it.
All right, man. I'm going to shake your hand real quick. All right, guys. Till next time. One of the biggest lessons that I've learned in this show, and honestly in life, is that healing doesn't live in just one lane. Some people find it through addiction recovery, some through therapy, some through faith, some through hard conversations that they've avoided for years, and some for finally being honest about what they're carrying. I started this show to give people a voice, to share real journeys, real struggles, and real growth. And what it's shown me is how many people are walking through similar battles, even if it looks different on the surface. Through this platform, I've been connected with people across so many lanes: addiction recovery, mental health, veterans and first responders, faith, marriage and relationships, trauma, and everything in between. I want to say this clearly. If you're listening right now and you're struggling, please reach out. You don't need to know exactly what you need. You don't need the right words. You don't have to even know exactly where to start. But through my network, I'll do everything I can to get you connected with the right person in the right lane for where you are. That's what this show is about. Real stories, real connection, and reminding people that there is a way forward.